Gobbler Run. In the quaint, secluded town of Gobbler Run, the crisp autumn air carried a heavy silence, broken only by the rustling of golden leaves. The townsfolk moved briskly, their breath misting in the cold, all eager to prepare for the annual Thanksgiving feast. Despite the jovial air of celebration, there was an unspoken tension that hung over the town, a weight tied to the legend of the Gobbler's curse. Each year, one family was chosen to hunt the ceremonial turkey from the shadowy woods on the outskirts of town. These were no ordinary turkeys. Towering at nearly 4 feet tall with thick black plumage and eyes that gleamed like polished obsidian, the flock was rumored to be older than the town itself. Their sharp talons and hooked beaks hinted at something primal, something not entirely natural. The town elders issued the same warning every year: take only one and take it swiftly, do not linger and do not return for more. But Jonathan Harper, this year's chosen hunter, dismissed the superstition with a wave of his hand. A man of practical beliefs, he saw no reason to fear an oversized bird. "Stories to scare kids," Jonathan muttered as he grabbed his rifle. His son Eric, a lanky teenager with a head full of curiosity, insisted on joining him. They left their cozy home at dusk, trudging through the brittle underbrush of the forest. The further they ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The trees seemed to lean closer, their gnarled branches intertwining above like skeletal fingers. Then they saw it. The turkey stood in a clearing, its jet-black feathers glistening under the faint light of the setting sun. It was enormous, nearly as tall as Eric, with a fan of tail feathers that shimmered like molten metal. It didn't move as they approached. It merely watched. Jonathan raised his rifle, squinting down the barrel. Just as he steadied his aim, more turkeys appeared. One by one, they emerged from the shadows until a dozen of the monstrous birds surrounded the clearing. Their heads tilted in unison, their eyes glittering with eerie intelligence. "Shoot it, Dad!" Eric hissed, his voice cracking. The crack of the rifle shattered the tense silence. The first turkey dropped with a heavy thud, its massive body hitting the forest floor. Jonathan and Eric froze, waiting for the other birds to scatter. But they didn't. The turkeys remained still, their heads cocked to the side. One took a step forward, then another. Jonathan grabbed the bird by its talons and dragged it quickly toward the path. "Let's go!" he barked, his voice betraying a hint of fear. The turkeys followed, their dark shapes blending with the shadows, their unblinking eyes fixed on the Harpers until the pair crossed the threshold back into Gobbler Run. Back home, the turkey was prepared with care. The aroma of herbs and roasted meat filled the house, masking the lingering unease from the forest. The family gathered around the table as Jonathan carved into the golden, glistening bird. The meat was tender and succulent, and soon the room was filled with the sounds of forks scraping plates and muffled compliments. "Best turkey we've ever had," Jonathan said, raising his glass of wine. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, the warmth of the meal gave way to a chilling unease. Eric was the first to feel it. That night, he woke with a start, the echo of strange gobbling still ringing in his ears. Sweat dampened his sheets as he sat upright, trying to shake the vivid dream. In his nightmare, the turkeys had surrounded their house. Their gobbles were almost like laughter. Their beady eyes glowed in the dark as they pecked at the windows, their sharp beaks cracking the glass. Unable to sleep, Eric crept to the kitchen for a drink of water. As he entered, the dim moonlight illuminated the dining table. He froze. The turkey, which they had carved and eaten hours ago, sat whole on the platter. Its headless neck seemed to stretch slightly upward, as if it were trying to move. Then, as Eric stared, the faintest twitch ran through one of its claws. "Dad!" he screamed, his voice shattering the silence. Jonathan stumbled into the room, his face pale and drawn. The kitchen lights flickered, bathing the room in eerie flashes. The air grew cold, and a low, wet sound filled the space, the sound of something tearing. Before their eyes, the remains of the turkey began to shift and swell. Bones snapped into place, sinew knit itself back together, and feathers sprouted like dark flames. Within moments, a grotesque figure stood before them, a monstrous hybrid of man and bird. Its beady eyes locked on Jonathan as it opened its jagged beak. The voice that came out was deep and grating like stones grinding together. "You took more than your share," it rasped. The creature lunged, talons slashing through the air. Screams echoed through the Harper house, followed by silence. The next morning, neighbors came to check on the family. The house was eerily still. In the dining room, the table was set for 4. Each plate held a perfect slice of turkey, but the Harpers were nowhere to be found. The only clue was a trail of clawed footprints leading back into the woods. That evening, the town gathered for the Thanksgiving feast, as they always did. The mayor praised the Harpers for their contribution before carving the communal turkey. The bird was massive, its roasted skin glistening under the glow of lanterns. As the townsfolk ate, a strange expression began to spread, first curiosity, then horror. Embedded in the meat were tiny, jagged teeth, human teeth. And the last thing they heard, from the forest, a chorus of gobbles, growing louder, closer, and sharper with each passing second.